my husband was a very, very positive person, and he would give many, many speeches, and he didn't want to talk about those that were lost. He wanted to talk about how people could make a difference. He talked about people who had helped in his lifetime. He talked about the future. He talked about the glowing experience that he had had. He didn't talk much about the bad ones. But my son and my grandson are here in the back, and maybe they would want to fill in a little bit of details that I might have skipped. But first of all, I want to tell you, my husband had a very unique story. He was not a concentration camp survivor, nor was his brother, nor were his parents. His aunts and uncles were shot on the spot. Some were shot in the synagogue, some were burned up in the synagogue. So there were horrible stories. But my husband lived in 4 different countries. He spoke 12 languages. He lived under the Nazis. He lived under the Chinese communists. He lived in Arab country in Israel when it first became a state. He lived under democracies, and he lived under all kinds of governments, and was so grateful to be in America, as was his brother and his father. Kurt Weinbach was born in 1928. He had an 8-year-old brother. When he was born, they were overthrowing the government in Vienna, Austria, so they were shelling on the streets. When he was 9 years old, almost at 10, Hitler marched into Vienna. He saw him twice. He was able to get away with it because he was blonde and blue-eyed, and Jews aren't supposed to be blonde and blue-eyed. And if you check some of the posters, many of the people were blonde and blue-eyed, and so they didn't fit the profile. They were able to do different things. In the same year, when he was almost 9, his big brother, who he worshipped, you know, if any of you have big brothers and big sisters, you know that it's something that's really special. Well, his big brother, who was in high school, was an honor student. He was an athlete. He was good looking. He loved to dance. He was very, very popular. But his school, his high school, became the headquarters of the junior SS, and he knew too much. He had to escape. He escaped several times and was caught, and luckily at that time he was sent back to his parents. Then he heard that you could go to China. Incidentally, some of the communist countries, this was not yet communist, but some of the communist countries did let people in when other people didn't. So, through a strange bit of fate, his father had been in World War I, and the officer that his father had became the staff commander, the chief officer of Vienna. And he said to him, "I can protect you for a little while, but when I say you have to go, go." So when Kristallnacht came, the night of the broken glass, all the shops were attacked. All the books were burned. Synagogues were burned. My husband saw his synagogue burned. He saw old people scrubbing sidewalks with toothbrushes. He saw all kinds of horrendous things. Came a time when he could no longer live in the apartment that he lived in because Jews weren't allowed in that section of the city. He had to move into what was like a ghetto. I don't know if you know, the original ghetto was in Vienna, and it was, ghetto actually means furnace, and as Jews were only allowed to work on furnaces. Well, he had to move into the ghetto. He had to change schools. He had to go from a public school to a Jewish school, and then subsequently he had to leave that school because Jews weren't allowed to get any education. He saw one of his cousins go to Dachau. He saw a neighbor who had a disability, was taken away and never heard of before, after that. In 1941, he got the word from the general, time to leave, I can't protect you anymore. So they had to go to China. And they went first class because the general protected them. So his story was so different. They had to leave everything, of course. They didn't have almost anything left. They were hungry. But they had first class accommodations on the train. Couldn't use it. They had food tickets for 3 people. But they had been so starved for so long that one food ticket was too much for them. So he left for China to join his parents. He arrived in China. He was 12 years old. And it turned out he did not go to Shanghai or any of the cities that you know about. He went to a place called Tianjin, which is now it's called Tianjin. It was called Tianjin at that time. And there he went to school. And they said to him, you're going to have to learn Japanese because we're Japanese occupied. You're going to have to learn Chinese because this is China. You're going to have to learn Russian because most of the people who go to this school have escaped from Russia. You're going to have to learn Yiddish, which is the Eastern European language, because most of the people speak Yiddish at home. You're going to have to learn Hebrew, because this is a Jewish school, and you'll have to learn English, because it's conducted in English. So he ended up speaking 12 languages. Well, he stayed in China, and it was under Japanese occupation. Then the American Marines came in 1945 when the Japanese surrendered, and he saw the surrender, and he worked with the American Marines to set up all their housing and all that. He was only 17 years old. In 1949, he lived under the Chinese communists. So first he lived under the democratic government of Austria, then he lived under the Nazis. Then he went to China, lived under the Japanese, the American military, and the Chinese communists. And then it was time to move on again, and he went to the one place in the world that accepts Jews, and that's Israel. So he lived in Israel, but peace was not to be with him. He had to serve in the military, and he served in the Battle of 1956, which was the Suez Canal battle. And then his mother said, it's not right, your brother had come to America. Your brother is in America, he has children, we need to be together. His father died under very, very bad circumstances in Israel. It was a brand new country, there were shortages. He had a minor heart attack, and the doctor said to him, you really don't have to be checked at a hospital, but it might be a good idea to go in. So he got into the ambulance with 11 people got into the ambulance, plus a relative for almost all of the 11. By the time he got to the hospital, he was gone. Had only been there 3 months. So his mother said, you got to be with your brother and your family, and they came to Rochester, and he loved it here. And he also lived through the race riots of 1964. We lived in where the race riots were. After a wonderful life, we were together for 50 years, and I know my son and my grandson are here, they're there, over there. Anything you want to add? Okay. He died in 1910.
2010?
2010, I'm sorry, 2010. He was born in 1928, that would have been quite a feat. But I want you to know, and this is a very important thing, that when bad times come, there are perpetrators. These are the people that do the evil. There are bystanders, and these are people who don't want to be seen, they don't want to be heard from, They just go, they don't do anything wrong, they don't do anything right. They just live their own lives. And then there are the rescuers, the helpers. And throughout history, helpers have been people like you, people who were affiliated with different religions, people who came from loving families, people who couldn't see wrong happening. So I hope that, God forbid, we shouldn't live through bad times, but if you do, that you would be a rescuer, certainly not a perpetrator. It's not easy to be a rescuer. Many people have suffered terribly for being rescued. So I'd like to finish by thank you all for caring enough to come. And I hope that if bad times come, you can make some sort of difference. Ron, do we have time for a question or two? Anybody have a question? There is a display out there, a little bit of my husband's life, and there's 2 books containing his story, if you want to see that, and got friends out there who can explain a little bit to you. So thank you very much. If there's no questions, we'll go on with the program.